Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. There's been a lot of Tekken 8 in the last couple of days. We had the demo released for the PlayStation 5, and it'll be out soon for other systems, and you're seeing the demo gameplay here. And also we had a story trailer for Tekken 8. And in this video, I'd like to talk both about the demo and where exactly the story is going in Tekken 8. Because with the story trailer, and also we have chapter 1 of the story in the demo, and also some other little bits, we're getting a decent picture, if not a confusing picture, about where the story is going in Tekken 8. So let's talk story stuff right now, and then we're going to talk some demo talk. Oh, and I guess fair warning, I will be talking about the story contents of chapter 1 in the demo, so if you want to avoid any spoilers, skip to the later demo talk, I suppose. So the main story trailer of Tekken 8 really shows that the world's kinda gone to hell in a handbasket. Like, yes, we are getting a King of the Iron Fist tournament this time around, unlike, say, Tekken 7, where officially there was no tournament. But the state of the planet is in pretty bad shape, as we went from literal, actual World War III in Tekken 6, thanks Jin, to, I guess, demigod Kazuya just up and murdering people in the streets as a super devil. Like, legitimately, the world of Tekken is one step away from being like the world of Devilman, if you ever read the original old manga or saw the anime, both of which I highly recommend. So within the context of the trailer, stuff's pretty bad. Kazuya basically aiming to turn the world into like a feudal state kick-puncher karate paradise where only the strong rule. And if you enter the new tournament and lose, he's going to destroy your country, except there isn't that many countries left because Jin destroyed most of the countries on Earth in Tekken 6. And I guess the point we're at, which is very frustrating from a story perspective, is Jin is the last great hope against Kazuya. And all the worse yet, because Kazuya's sort of figured out super devil form, the true devil form as it were, because it's looking more impressive than it's ever been. And it looks like he's going to make short work of just about everyone, including some of the newcomers. And speaking of the newcomers, so it looks like Asuka is a bad guy. Wouldn't have expected that she signed up with G Corp to sell coffee. Coffee at any cost, I guess. And in the trailer as well here, we're seeing what is, I'm assuming, the final battle, because chapter 1 starts off in the city, and the original windswept, rain-swept kind of crater battle we saw that launched with Tekken 8, you know, that was the debut originally. That probably is going to be the final cinematic battle. Makes sense, I suppose. But now all that said here, let's pick apart the trailer a little bit here. Both some cool stuff, some interesting stuff, and some weird stuff. So let's start with the most insanely frustrating part of the story arc we're going for here, in that you, Jin, are the hope of mankind. I understand that a villain going through a redemption arc is definitely a storytelling thing you can do, but most villains haven't done what Jin has done. Jin literally ruined the world and started World War III. Like, actually. I understand he's a sad boy about it now, but, you know, let's talk to Miguel what he thinks about Jin being the savior of mankind now. I don't know, I don't think he might be the biggest fan. You know, Jin has a talk with him. Hey, Miguel, I know you're sad I killed your sister, but you see, the only reason I killed her is so specifically she would suffer and die and you would suffer, and you and millions and tens of millions of people around the world would die and suffer, so I could go fight a purple dinosaur in Egypt and beat him, except, well, I didn't actually beat the purple dinosaur. Sorry about that. But you get where I'm coming from, right? And then Miguel just hugs him and calls him a hero. Thank you for trying. Even in chapter 1 of the story that's presented in the demo, Kazuya is just like, you are the actual bad guy here. You started the war. You are the reason the world is the way it is. Like, as messed up as it is, as Kazuya is the literal devil, right? He has the moral high ground on Jin, which I guess we'll see where the story goes, right? But it's just, it's frustrating because this is not the kind of character that deserves a redemption arc. Like, imagine it was 1945 the story took place in, right? And now let me introduce you to the hope of mankind. Maybe a heavy comparison, but to be fair, Jin's actually worse than Hitler. After all, the whole point of Azazel waking up was when humanity's darkness and sorrow and sadness and all that was at its peak, and he didn't wake up in World War II, but he did wake up for Jin. So that means Jin did even more damage. So I don't know, you're creating a scenario where I can't really root for any of the characters, right? Jin's gonna Jin, because in the end, regardless of the plot, they've written themselves into a corner or two, you know? He's popular and everyone thinks he's hot, so he's gonna keep doing the thing he's doing. But I'm sure he'll find a way to magically redeem himself and somehow, you know what? You're forgiven for World War III. And this is almost certainly where June comes into play, because obviously she's back, right? Although, now that I realize I see this trailer and thinking of all the other trailers, she's not beating the "I'm still a ghost, I'm still actually dead" allegations. I know Harada said she's not dead and she just went missing, whatever, but think of every trailer we've seen so far to this point. She only ever shows up in like these ethereal dream sequence kind of things. You don't see her like in the city or, you know, in the arena or whatever, right? It's only things you can pass off as like dream sequences or spiritual encounters or stuff like that. So despite what Harada says, I'm still banking on her being a ghost. And I guess the other arc of Jin getting the new Kazama healing goodness powers is he'll also at least temporarily lose the devil powers. So we literally got like a whole Austin Powers, I gotta get my mojo back plotline, right? So now outside of Jin, we do have other characters showing up like Reina. And Reina, probably a pretty important deal. She's a part of the main zoo crew, as these are assuredly the plot important characters, as they're the ones that actually get to fight Super Kazuya. One thing people are noticing is the pose specifically. If you go to the old Tekken 7 key art, this is exactly the Heihachi pose, the one that's on the box art. For some reason, people still deny the Heihachi Reina, you know, comparison, the link, but it's absolutely there. Like either she's somehow related to Heihachi or she's related to John Cena, you pick. She's there with the main crew to help take down Super Kazuya, so it's gonna be important regardless. The only mystery now is what exactly is the link, right? Was she another secret daughter, a secret student? Is she a clone? Who actually knows? We're gonna find out with the main plot, I guess. So this is the main team, which also features Lily, by the way. Lily gets to fight her way to plot importance, yet Asuka is still completely MIA. Asuka's last name is Kazama too. You'd think there'd be a link, but at this point, I'm just assuming it's a coincidence. Her name's Kazama, no relation. Because they just refuse to do anything with her. The team that matters, though, is the B team, as you can see here. Only a quick shot, but we have Claudio, Zafina, Xiaoyu, and Panda. And Panda's part of the main plot now. Like, even if it's only this one shot, right? So there we go, that's a win. But getting strong Scooby-Doo vibes out of this crew. A lot of the comedy, if there's going to be any, I feel this is where it's coming from. And I guess the other thing we know thanks to the trailer is we're going to have our big Avengers moment, right? So we got Lars, Yggdrasil, all that kind of stuff, probably some Tekken Force members, whoever's left, and we're going to have the big fight against G-Corp crew, right? So who are the goodies, who are the baddies, and a lot of the minor characters get time to shine. Like as mentioned earlier, it turns out Azucena is on the side of evil, a bad guy, if you will, right? It's purely because it's better for the optics of my coffee to support the actual devil. Like, sure, I guess. I don't know. She's thinking 3 steps ahead. Other things we can see, Dragunov, it looks like, is on G-Corp's side. Weird. He's supposed to be on vacation. We get Paul and Law. They actually show up. Fang as well. I know it's going to be small. They're not going to have a lot of roles to play, but at least they're going to get some screen time. Thank God. And we can see Steve bringing a lot. I'm just going to shuck and jive my way into these people firing assault rifles at me. I don't know. It just makes me happy. It looks like the minor characters will have a time to shine, right? Because so much of Tekken is just Mishima, you know, just forever and onwards, right? You know, I like Paul. Paul used to be important. Paul beat Ogre, remember that? And we'll actually talk about that in a second, because they're slightly retconning that a little bit, it looks like. Regardless, though, I still remember. But yeah, one of the other things is multiple times in the little Chapter 1 story we have, they mention Heihachi. Heihachi obviously lost the fight at the end of Tekken 7, but then again, you know, falling into lava from a volcano has been done before, and Kazuya is proof that it doesn't necessarily mean you died. And they specifically mention multiple times, he's missing, he's missing, he's missing. Not that he's dead. And when you say he's missing enough and not willing to say just unequivocally, yo, this character is dead, makes me wonder if he actually is dead. Because little things I always remember people talking about. It's like, well, you know, the voice actor passed away, so that means the character's gone forever. Even though they've already replaced the voice actor before. Like, it's been done, and guess what? They did it again. So the demo comes with these little recaps of the other Tekken games just to get you up to speed on the story, right? And that's great. Good enough. And a lot of these are narrated by Heihachi. Which means, sure enough, he has another voice actor.
Kazuya yo, omae ni Mishima o tsugu shikaku ga aru ka misete morau zo.
So this doesn't mean anything in and of itself, right? But it definitely dispels the whole, well, they can't bring him back because of the whole voice actor thing, right? I don't know why that's ever a thing. Voice actors get replaced all the time in Japan. Now, I'm not saying that Heihachi necessarily is going to show up in the story of Tekken 8, but Heihachi as DLC, Heihachi showing up again in Tekken 9. Just, I'm feeling we ain't seen the last of him. Oh, and just to run back to it here, so the Tekken 3 recap shows Jin up against the regular version of Ogre, which did not happen. Paul is the one who beat the regular version of Ogre. Jin later beat True Ogre after Paul weakened him up for him. I don't know if they're just doing this for the benefit of the recap, because God forbid you show a non-Mishima character in the recap. But I did find it a little bit odd. And the last story bit to talk about, which I found very interesting, is this at the end of the chapter 1 in the demo. So we see someone in a cave, and it's not Leo, which I found a little weird, just because we actually have a character that's like a certified spelunker. Like, if we're having someone who's caving, we could show that off, but no, we actually have a completely different character for it. But we have some interesting lore-related stuff here in this little sequence here. So, we can see the two devils, Jin and Kazuya, and we see Azazel in the middle. Now, to be honest, frankly, other than Zafina's moveset, I would have thought they just never would have mentioned Azazel ever again. And it's not necessarily a thing that it might be a factor of the plot, but still, Tekken has dropped plot lines before multiple times, right? So I figured that would be much the same. Could be that the new super devil form of Kazuya is exactly Azazel powered. I don't know, right? So it's not a drop plot line. You know, World War III was started over the stupid purple dinosaur. Kind of a significant event, I would say. So I'm glad that hopefully this plot line is not just completely dropped. And then they're dumping a little bit of history lore on us, specifically that the Mishima clan's been around forever. And apparently they might have also been monster slayers. Now, I'm no historian about Japan's history or anything like that, right? But I do know a lot of clan symbols, specifically ones that are active around the era of the Sengoku Jidai. And of course, now we got an old-timey map. I can see a lot of those symbols. And in the middle, the big pointy triangle, that's the Mishima symbol. So they're trying to say, yo, they've been around for a long time. They're also showing off some World War II stuff here. So World War II is when Jinpachi actually made arms and weapons and all that for the Japanese Imperial Navy and Army. And after the war, he's like, hey, probably shouldn't have done that. Then he became a peacenik, and then Heihachi had him killed for it and all that kind of fun stuff. And then more historical stuff. And it's basically giving the appearance here, whoever our mysterious caver is trying to connect the dots on a lot of things on the Mishima Zaibatsu. Who's related to who and what's going on exactly. It's funny too, because we get a pretty big Sir not appearing in this film. Because, you know, showcasing moments where, say, Akuma was part of, you know, like the building getting destroyed. He's not there. And then Tekken 7 recap of the story, Akuma also not appearing. Funny how that works. He was part of the plot. And yeah, more Heihachi missing, right? So once again, if you're scared to say he's dead, makes me think he's not dead, right? But Tekken 8 is going interesting places, I'll say. Maybe weird, frustrating places, but definitely interesting places. I'm actually very invested in seeing where this story is going to go. You know, the hero is worse than the villain, but you know, you actually see Paul and Law in the story, even if it's going to be probably for like 3 seconds. That's cool. I don't know. There's just a lot of places it can go, so I'm looking forward to it. As silly as it will almost assuredly be. Now to talk demo. So the demo, the gameplay's still good, right? Like, I got to play the previous beta test. The gameplay's solid. I'm not worried about the gameplay at all. It's good and just getting better every time I see more, right? But some notes about the demo. So just for the story bit here, I did find it a little frustrating that you're forced into easy inputs. Like, they do ask you if you want to use like the assisted inputs, and I say no. And then we do the battle, and it turns out I actually can't like do something as simple as like stand 1-2. Like, they're doing like all these like fancy pre-canned combos for you, which for a purely cinematic thing, I absolutely get. Sure, you know, it'll be great for the casual audience, but like, if I turn down the original offer of assisted buttons and all that, don't force it on me, I guess. Like, basically, just let me drop my own combos for myself, right? Like, you doing the moves for me, just, I don't know, it just feels a little lame. Great for the people that want it, but just don't force it on me if I don't want it. But yeah, chapter 1 of the story, suitably, visually, super bombastic. If they can keep this whole vibe and this whole energy up the whole time, that's going to be great, right? Tekken 7 story wasn't amazing, let's call it for what it is, but the final sequence, like the final battle of Kazuya versus Heihachi, that was really fun, right? And the first chapter definitely apes those vibes, and if we can get like a lot of that going throughout the whole story mode, then it will probably be really fun. So cautiously, gameplay wise, experience wise, very optimistic for the story mode. Then we have the Arcade Quest mode, which is something I'm actually very excited for, because Arcade Quest mode is heavily based on the old Virtua Fighter 4 Quest mode, which is my favorite single-player experience in all the fighting games ever, and it definitely gives off a lot of those vibes. Like, right down to, like, you have the world map where you can select the arcade you want to go to. I love that kind of stuff. Like, it seems just really cool. Although it makes me a little sad, because, like, some of the younger people playing this, like, they're not going to know this, right? Like, I'm 40 now. Like, I grew up in the arcades, but like, if you're 22 or something, like, what would you know about arcades? They're all gone. Like, you're almost viewing this in like the lens of like a historical context. You hanging out with a bunch of friends, you know, there's like a weird guy smoking in the corner. Not that you can smoke indoors anymore. Anyways, but like, you know, like for a lot of us that are older, sure, we get all this, right? But if you're younger, this is you viewing into something you have no context for. Which, it's not the game's fault in any way, but it does kind of bum me out. It does make me feel a little bit old. But that said, I like the idea of what's going on here, because they're doing more than just providing you with, like, you know, player versus AI battles, right? They're building a world. They have characters like, I like to customize my characters. I play for fun, you know, like all that kind of stuff. Then you got like this dude's like, no, I only play to own people. If you're not sick and on my level, I'm not wasting my time with you scrubs. And, you know, like, screw that guy, right? You want to beat him up. Like, it's a good hook. So you got to do the whole hero's journey thing, go to all the arcades in Japan, get better at Tekken, and eventually you can, like, own this guy on stream or Tekken World Tour Finals or whatever they're going to do. You play Tekken for your friends and for fun, right? This guy's playing Tekken only to win. That's not real Tekken. Real Tekken is about the friends we made along the way. So screw this guy and everything he's all standing for. And that in mind, like, getting better at Tekken, the one thing I noticed just playing through some of these characters, some of these AI models here, is just that they're actually trying to teach you stuff. Like this one specific match against this Brian player, right? The one thing I noticed after a little bit, it's like, wait a second, they're doing the same string that always ends with the low, right? And then it's like, oh, they're trying to teach you multiple things, right? Like both basic defense, like here's an opportunity to defend yourself, but also here's a perfect opportunity to use low parry, because we're always going to end with the low. You always know it's coming. So then you can low parry and start doing combos and that kind of stuff. One of my favorite things any game can do is trick you into learning while you're actively playing, right? And it seems like a lot of these bots are going to be designed with that exactly in mind, which is fantastic. That, and they have the whole ghost AI thing. The bots can learn. They can learn your playstyle. You can fight other people's with other playstyles. And that seems to be pretty proficient. Like the Paul bot I had did like my baby Paul combos. So like that worked out. But I also played against some of the other preset bots that they had. And, you know, here I am just like kind of mashing my way through stuff, like whatever, you know, I'm not thinking too hard. And then I got whooped. Like these are like doing like actual real combos on me. And they drop them sometimes too, just like a normal player would. But I'm like, wow. I actually have to think when I fight some of these AIs, which is normally something I don't really got to do in a fighting game, is put any thought into beating the AI. I'll just mash, 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 and it'll eventually kind of work itself out. Which, once again, to go back to the Virtua Fighter 4 comparison, like that's kind of how that was too, right? A lot of the higher level bots had routines based off of actual top players from Japan. And therefore you would see like actual strong, you know, movement, strong, you know, whiff punishing, strong combos, all that kind of stuff. And if we can have that too, like this is the mode that's going to trick a lot of single player only people to learning the game and wanting to be competitive and actually learning how to play the game. So I actually find this pretty exciting. Like I'm really looking forward to this. I think this might actually have some real legs. And the demo, at bare minimum, it can be a little bit of a substandard training mode. If you play one of the 4 characters that are in the demo, that means you can start grinding right now. And like Jin, Kazuya, Nina, Paul, like that's a pretty good selection. Like if you had to pick 4 characters, that's about right. Like these are some of the more popular characters of the game. You got the full move list. You can see how everything's working. So like that's good. You want a demo to be representative of the full game. So, you know, here's some of the more popular characters and you can play around in versus or versus CPU on top of the other modes. And that's just my thoughts on the demo and I guess the story as a whole as we're going into Tekken 8's launch, which is not too far away from now. We're like a month and change away from the launch of Tekken 8. And Tekken 8, just like Street Fighter 6, I think it's going to be a special one. This game seems to be firing on all cylinders in a way that, frankly, Tekken 7, even though Tekken 7 eventually got to be pretty dang good, I don't feel like Tekken 7 launched particularly strong, but I do feel like Tekken 8 will. We got a lot of features, got some good gameplay systems, we got quality online play, certainly something Tekken 7 struggled with in the early days. We have actual single-player content. Like, Arcade Quest mode looks really good, and if they do it right, it can definitely be pretty lengthy and just really fun. And as far as like the story mode goes, like, frankly, can't do too much worse than Tekken 7's. I like it for what it is, I guess, but it wasn't, you know, an all-timer. But this one, hopefully it'll be longer, better, more involved, and the plot, whatever it's going to be, man, I'm just interested in seeing what they're actually going to pull off, considering the state of the world. But yeah, Tekken 8 looking good. Looking forward to it. So expect, you know, more coverage on the channel leading up to launch and through launch. I will do my best to keep y'all informed when it comes to stuff like new trailers dropping, and of course when the game launches, all sorts of guides and coverage. But until then, that is the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Tekken.